Hi, welcome to Shannon Confidential. I'm Shannon, your host. Shannon Confidential is a podcast about life, love, and everything in between. There's a lot of in between. Happiness, not happiness, successes, failures, just life has it all. And it doesn't matter if you're a male or a female or however you identify. It doesn't matter your religion, how much you weigh, how much money you make, where you live, what color your hair is, or your blood type. Honestly, life affects us all and affects us all the same way. And I think that's something that sometimes we forget. We think we're in this alone, or it only happens to me, or there's no one else this could possibly happen to, or someone who's very successful doesn't have to deal with any dilemmas in life, and vice versa. And the fact is, it's not true. We all go through it. And that's half the reason for this podcast, is just making people realize that life is life and we all deal with it and we're all in this together. And the more we support each other, even with all of our differences, the better off we all are. And we just need to take maybe more of that approach. So what I'm talking about today is something that I think is really, really important. And maybe that's weird of me, I don't know, but it's something I really, really find important. And that is CPR training. And this is something that I have done, whether it be through work or a certification I'm getting when I was a trainer, or when I was a camp counselor for high school, or, working at the stadium. There's certain jobs, and some of you watching will realize that CPR is it's a requirement for your job. But for a lot of us, and many of you watching, and for me now, it's not a requirement for anything as far as work related, but it is something I truly believe in. And I'll tell you a story that it happened to me. I was about in 8th grade, which is basically you're a senior in middle school. It was the year before I was going into my freshman year in high school. And my daughter, who's working the camera today, she may or may not even know this story. And this is just the importance of being ready when something happens, whatever it is. And so I was a soccer player, and at the time, it was out in Coral Springs, and many of you will know this park. It was at Mullins Park. And back in the day when this happened, your parents had to work the concession stand after practice or during your game time or whatever, selling the Cokes and the ring pops and all that other fun stuff. So my mom was working the concession stand. Now, some of the story, given my age, I did have CPR training in school, part of, your health ed or whatever it was called, something that many schools don't even have now, and they should. And so we learned CPR in middle school. So here I am, it's after soccer practice, and my mom is still working the concession stand. So we were doing like what most kids do at that park, and it was filled with kids. Practices, games, basketball, you name it. It was just kids everywhere. And even though they had a playground, of course, me, because my nickname is Monkey, from my dad, who's also a paramedic, and maybe this is where some of this comes from, we were climbing in the trees that were by the concession stand. And it was just a bunch of us, kids, little kids, older kids, everybody's just running around like crazy. No one's parents, they're probably watching a game or a practice of a sibling somewhere. And I was climbing the trees with all of these kids, friends of mine, and just random strangers. And then all of a sudden, one of the little boys, and he was little, he was definitely, I can remember this like it was yesterday, he was definitely in elementary school age, and he slipped in the tree. And the branch went up into like his head. It went right into his skin, almost like you're threading a needle. It went in and it came back out. I don't want to say he was impaled because he was able to move. It was like more or less like a thinner branch. So as soon as it went through, it broke off the tree and it was just in him. But it was a facial trauma. And if anybody has ever been hit in the face or anything like that, you have so many nerve endings. So the blood was intense. So as soon as he did it, he just gushed blood. Now, I gotta say, I didn't panic. I did tell another little boy because, we were all just climbing trees. It's not like I walked around with a first aid kit. And I made a little kid take his shirt off. And he kind of just listened to me. And I took this little boy's shirt and wrapped it around this kid's head as tight as I could to compress the injury, to stop the bleeding. And the reason you do that is so it will clot. And immediately pointed to someone else to go, because we were right next to the concession stand, go into that concession stand and tell Joanne, which was my mom's name, call 911. There's a little kid that's bleeding. Just walk right in there, ask for Joanne and say, your daughter said call 911. I knew my mom would come running because that's my mom. Which all of that happened. So I sat there and held that little boy's head in my hand there was just blood everywhere. And my mom called 911, and Mullins Park, the fire station, is directly behind it. Only there's a big metal fence. So they had to drive all the way around, come into the park, and then get to us. So the time when you hear the sirens go on, you know help is on the way. You can hear those sirens, but you knew they had to drive around the park, to get to us. And I held that little boy. I kept talking to him, letting him know he was fine, asked him his name, do you know where your mom is, trying to find someone who knew him to get the parents, the mom or dad or aunt, uncle, whoever he was there with, to come over, because this kid was going to have to go to the hospital. So the paramedics come, and I had held it, and they said, okay, what, and they saw that I had a shirt tied around this kid's head. And he comes running over, and he's like, I'll take it, honey, I'll take it, from here. And I was like, okay. So I handed the little boy to the paramedic, and he, took a peek underneath the shirt, and you could see his face. It was bad. And he put the compressions back on, and then they did their whole paramedic thing. But I remember he looked back at me, and he said, did you do this? And I said, yeah. And he said, you might have saved him. And I could get a little choked up. I'll never forget that. I will never forget what that felt like. That just because I knew to wrap that injury tight and to keep it compressed. I'm not saying that little boy would have died or not, but he definitely would have bled a lot more if I wasn't there. And, the paramedics said I did a good job, and it felt really, really good to just know what to do, to not panic, and to just trust your instincts. And that brings me to the CPR training, which I just did recently. And if you see the logo behind me, and if you remember Eddie Kaye, as in Kaye Yocho, I think it was episode 27, Dance to Your Own Rhythm. He is a Zumba instructor. And in the interview, you also heard that he also is a CPR first aid instructor.
My heart into it, all of it. And
if you ever watch his classes.
Yeah, and for anybody out there, always find your passion. It's something that you want to go to bed waking up wanting to work. And I couldn't wait to get into the classroom with the kids, or working with kids, or anything working with kids, doing music or something. I'm also a Red Cross instructor, and I did that 15 years ago.
And I'm a painter. I have Picasso, and
I have my guitar.
I'm a ventriloquist, and then I mime. And this is like, what does it mean?
So when I was the director of a daycare center, I got tired of hiring people to come in and figure out people's schedules, because I had moms that were figuring out, juggling things, and hey, you got to get here on a Friday night, no matter what. So I decided to go and become a Red Cross instructor, an American Red Cross instructor, and I still am, present till this day.
So I knew my certification had expired from my previous job that required it, and it's still something that, even though I don't need it, I want to keep that muscle memory, that reaction time, that fearlessness that I had in middle school. So if something happens, I can jump in. All right, so I'll just start here. So once I got into adulthood and I started doing CPR for job-related reasons, one of my dearest besties, Angela, she has done it with me, and we have always had a fabulous time. We giggle a little, even though it's serious, I get it, but we do have fun with it. We just enjoy doing it together. We've recertified time and time together. And this past time, which, as I'm talking, I'll put up photos of this most recent time that we did CPR together. And it's still, even though I know what I'm doing, I've been tested and I did good, it still doesn't mean I'm not going to still keep up, because I just feel if I'm able to help, I'm going to help. Even if it's scary, I'm going to help. I give blood as often as I can, because I'm still saving a life, which is, yet, even if you don't want to learn CPR, it's not something you like, go donate platelets, donate blood. People need help, and we're all here. And if you ever needed help, or you needed a transfusion, or someone you loved, we're so capable of doing this. So I'm just stressing to everybody, just really listen to what I'm going to say today. And if you're not certified, do it. It'll make you feel better, So CPR, what it stands for is cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR. And that it's a life-saving technique that helps maintain the blood flow to the brain to help in an emergency situation, because we all know that when you don't have blood going to your vein, your brain, that's where the deterioration happens. That's why just minutes, like the reaction time, if someone collapses or someone's choking and they can't get air, those first few minutes are so important to their future outcome, because it's within, they like say like a 10-minute countdown. At 10 minutes, okay, you got to start working. At 8 minutes, then, you know, the muscles start to deteriorate. Then the brain starts to deteriorate because it's not getting oxygen. Now, I am not a certified instructor. This is just what I'm giving you, and a lot of the training that I received is my opinion on how I feel about it all. And that's pretty much what this is about. I strongly advise that anything you want to know the full everything, I strongly advise you go with Eddie and have him, you know, certify you. You will learn this in so much more detail. I'm just giving you my experience and my opinion. And so, like I said, when I knew my certification was up, I was really excited when Andrew says, "Hey, you want to get certified again?" Eddie, you know, Eddie's a certified instructor. Let's do it. I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally in." And I cannot stress to you the importance, and if anybody's watching this has had a family, or even themselves, even if you're choking yourselves, a family member, somebody with a newborn child or a child that doesn't even have any issues. Sometimes these things happen to the most perfectly healthy people. So it's not even as if you have to learn it because maybe you have an elderly parent or a child that has special needs and you want to learn it for them. These things happen anywhere at any time with anybody. So, and it could be your parent, your grandparent, your child, your neighbor. I don't know, you're in an elevator and it's a complete stranger. I'm talking anybody. And the CPR training, it runs about 3 hours. It's not hard. And if you go into it, you know, change, you know, if it's something that makes you nervous or scared or like, oh my God, if someone dropped to the floor, I wouldn't know what to do. You know, that's, being nervous is a choice in life. It really is. Choose not to be. Choose not to be. To be like, you know what, I can't, if this happens, I'm going to get certified and I'm going to be there. When and if I'm needed, I'm going to be there. And if you take that attitude with anything in life, you're going to give it 100%. If you walk around, oh, I don't know if I should get CPR. What if someone collapses? What if I mess up? Here's what, ask yourself this. What if you didn't do anything? What if someone you love dropped and no one did anything? Is that a better answer? No, it's not. So I'm not saying you have to get CPR certified because you want to go out there and, like, you know, be your own personal first responder. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying get certified, because those minutes before the first responders arrive are so detrimental on the outcome. Even if that person lived, those few minutes where the blood stops going to the brain, you could live, but your quality of life might not be that great. Depriving your brain of oxygen is not something we should normally ever have happen. And just keeping the blood flow and stopping the bleeding or getting someone to be able to stop choking, those are all things that improve the quality of life after the fact. And the first few minutes, unless there's an off-duty paramedic or there's an ambulance right outside the building, it's going to be about bystanders, and that's you. So just hear me out on this, okay? So first, we all know if there's an emergency, you call 911, and it's either you, or if you're talking to the person that just collapsed, you don't just yell out, "Someone call 911," because everybody does a deer in the headlights. They don't know who's calling 911. Well, maybe someone already did on the phone. Should I? Shouldn't I? I don't know. Give direction. Be strong with what you're doing. If someone collapses or someone's choking, don't hesitate to call 911, because you may think, oh, maybe they're not choking, or maybe they just fell down and they got dizzy, and then if I call 911, oh my God, I'm going to make a fool out of myself. No, trust me. You'd rather have them there than not when you realized, oh shit, it just went south, and I wish to God someone was already on the way. Because once you decide, wow, they're really not breathing, or wow, they're really choking, you've lost such important minutes, and you have no idea the traffic at the time, or if there's a bridge that's going to be up. Get that 911 call out and do it. Point at someone, look at someone, say, you, Susie, Mary, Mr. Stranger. You point to them, make eye contact, make sure they know you call 911. And get that call going immediately. So, so many people, it's studies show that 50%, half of people that collapse or choke or do something unexpectedly out in open, 50% of them receive nothing because of either no one around had any training and even knew what to do, or fear. And I want to touch on the fear part on this. So many people think, even if they're certified, and they panic. I don't know how many compressions, how many breaths, how many blows to the back for choking. There is a thing, it's actually it's a Good Samaritan's Act. It's a law. And this is in place to protect you. So if you are helping somebody in an emergency situation and they're choking or they collapse and they're not breathing, you are able to help them. Even if you're given compressions and you break a rib, which is very, very common. So, it's not necessarily that you did anything wrong. That actually happens. You can't be sued. You can't be sued for helping someone in an emergency situation that wasn't able to help themselves. Now, I'm not saying if someone is, falls down to the ground and you do like the movie Dumb and Dumber and they're talking to you and, you offer them help and they're like, no, I'm good. I'm just like, whatever. Still call 911, don't get me wrong. But then you start to get massive compressions on their chest or something like that. Yeah, you're probably going to get in trouble because they openly said no. But once someone can't communicate and they're not breathing or they're choking and they're not breathing or something's happening like that and you offer and you help them, you cannot be sued. And I'm actually going to read the law to you in case you're not aware of it. The Good Samaritan Act is a law which protects any volunteer giving aid to an injured person in an emergency situation. The Good Samaritan law offers legal protection in the form of exemption from lawsuits and liability, acting as a safeguard to those who help another in a real emergency life or death situation. I got certified, so I'm ready to help when and if I need it. And I am not going to hesitate to help somebody. And don't hesitate out of fear of getting in trouble. And here's a little thing, and I did ask this to Eddie, who was fabulous when he was teaching us. You say that person collapses and their loved ones or their friend is with them and they're like, no, don't touch them. They're not legally allowed to speak for that person. That person is in need of emergency help. You can still help them even if someone else tells you not, because not for nothing, but if you watch Forensic Files, maybe that person that's saying don't help them, maybe kind of was involved in that. I'm just saying, but that's where my brain goes. Anyway, always help somebody. There is Eddie's training. It's about 3 hours and there is a test at the end, but don't worry about all of it. He is such a fabulous teacher. He is so hands-on. And again, I'll be putting up all of the photos of everything we did so you can kind of see what we did. We practiced choking, the maneuvers for choking on a baby or an older child. It's the 5 hits to the back, pendulum, and then you flip them over, and then you do the compressions on the chest. But again, it all goes to the size of the child, the size of you, their weight. Sometimes you can hold the baby like this. Sometimes you have to get down on one knee and use your leg. It depends on, the situation. It sounds like a lot to think of, but a lot of this, believe it or not, believe in yourself. It's very instinctive. Any parent out there, you'll jump to it, when your kids are hurt. And CPR for adults, and children is also different just because of the frame structure. How and you CPR, going over them, and people go like stay alive, stay alive. I guess that's that's a good little thing, but really what you're trying to do is mimic the natural heart rate. The thump, the thump, the thump. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to press that heart down so it gives the blood, gives the energy, gets the oxygen to the brain so that person stays alive. So these are all the things that you learn with Eddie, and he has the adult dolls, he's got the baby dolls. We learn the bleeding, the story I told you about the little boy when I was in middle school. It's compress, get that blood to stop flowing, get that blood to clot. He goes into training with all of that. We learn about the anaphylactic shock, how to use the EpiPen. You just learn so much. It's worth every single minute. And this is another thing that's out there, the AED machine, the automated external defibrillator. That's the clear, that you see in the movies or on TV. And now a lot of these places, because people have heart attacks right in the middle of the grocery store, you learn how to use that. And that is something that some people are like, oh my God, shock a heart, I could never do that, it's so hard. Believe it or not, once you take that machine down, and as soon as Eddie teaches it to you, you're going to totally get it. It is like Shocking the Heart for Dummies. You press the button, it tells you very calmly in a lovely voice exactly what to do to cut the shirt open, exactly where to press those pads on the body. It shows you exactly when to press the button, and then it delivers the shock. It tells you exactly what to do. You can't mess it up. Like, you can't. You really can't mess it up. So I just advise everybody to do it. You're gonna learn so much. I will put all Eddie's contact information so you can learn his fees. And the best part is it comes to you. You don't have to go to a building or get your office together. He will come to your office. Get all your friends. He will come to your home. He will come to you where you need to be. Get trained in CPR by Eddie Calais with Energy Fitness. You'll love it and you'll be thankful for it. Thank you. I do want to end with telling everybody that my certifications came across, and I'm not sure, maybe somewhere in the house I will have these in a very, very sparkly frame, maybe right when you walk in the door so everybody knows they're in a safe zone. But here are my certifications that I earned with Eddie Calais, or Calais as in Cayocho, and Angela. I am so proud of these. You too can get these. Again, Eddie's amazing. Have him come to you, have him come to your house. You'll learn so many techniques that will make you so good. And there's a lot of confidence in that. So go get trained, everybody. Red Cross CPR. It's time for Be Kind. This is the segment where I try to get a poem or a quote or something that coordinates with what we talked today. And we talked about how CPR, you can save a life. So the quote today is by Abraham Lincoln, and it's, next to creating a life, the finest thing a man can do is save one. Thank you, Abraham Lincoln. And it's now time for Style Secrets. And this is where I pay forward something that I've used, tried, done, whatever it is that I think, my followers, my friends, all of you out there will get a lot of benefit from. And so today I'm going to Style Secrets, Eddie Calais, Energy Fitness, Red Cross CPR certification. Again, it's burns, it's first aid, it's AED, it's awesome. So Eddie Calais, Style Secrets, get it done. Please follow me. The beginning of the podcast, the end of the podcast, I always say subscribe. It is so important for me to get the word out there. And the more subscribers I have on YouTube and the more followers on Facebook, the better that is. Word of mouth, the support I'm getting from all of you has been fantastic. Subscribing doesn't cost anything. So subscribe to me on YouTube, Shannon Confidential. On Facebook, Shannon Confidential. On Instagram, Shannon_Confidential. Apple Podcasts, Shannon Confidential. And you can always email me anything you have, questions, concerns, a topic you want me to talk about, or something I've talked about before and you have a question about it. I am here for you. And you can contact me at shannonconfidential007@gmail.com. Thank you, everybody.